Hollywood wants you to forget these scandals. But today, we're reopening the files. The 1950s are remembered as the golden age of glamour, elegance, and untouchable movie stars. But behind the polished magazine covers and perfectly rehearsed press statements, there existed a darker, carefully protected world. One filled with cover-ups, ruined careers, hidden relationships, and secrets so explosive that studios spent millions to bury them. These weren't A-listers whose fame still lives in blockbuster documentaries and best-selling biographies. These were the forgotten ones, the nearly great, the almost famous, the rising talents whose careers and lives were bent, manipulated, or outright destroyed by scandals they never fully recovered from. Today, we're digging through the files studios hoped would disappear forever. This is the truth Hollywood never wanted you to hear, and the stories you were never meant to know. 10. Sheree North. The next Marilyn, Hollywood set up to fail. In the early 1950s, Hollywood studios were terrified of losing their brightest star, Marilyn Monroe. So executives at 20th Century Fox crafted a safety plan, an insurance policy in the form of another blonde bombshell who could replace Monroe if she ever became too difficult, too expensive, or too powerful. That actress was Sheree North. She was beautiful, talented, and charismatic, and the studio aggressively shaped her image to mirror Marilyn's. But the plan backfired. North didn't fit the carefully engineered fantasy the studio tried to force on her. She pushed back creatively, rejected some of the more exploitative publicity tricks, and refused to become a carbon copy of Monroe. When executives realized she wasn't the obedient stand-in they wanted, they abruptly shelved her career. Her movies disappeared from promotion schedules. She was pushed out of major press events, and eventually she was released from her contract. The lesson was brutal. Studios used actresses like props, interchangeable, replaceable, and disposable. And North became a symbol of how Hollywood erased women who wouldn't conform. 9. Ernie Kovatch, the comedic genius Hollywood ignored. Ernie Kovatch wasn't just a comedian, he was a visionary. Long before modern sketch shows, digital editing, or experimental camera work, Kovatch was breaking every rule of early television. His surreal humor, innovative transitions, and boundary-pushing special effects made him a favorite among insiders, directors, and critics. Yet, despite his brilliance, Hollywood never gave him the widespread recognition he deserved. Then, in 1962, though his peak fame began in the 1950s, Kovatch died suddenly in a car accident. What followed was a scandal that shook the TV industry. Massive debt disputes, insurance battles, and legal wars over his estate. His death revealed how poorly television performers were protected financially, prompting networks to overhaul their insurance policies, restructure their contracts, and introduce new financial safeguards. Kovatch's legacy wasn't just his comedy. It was the way his tragic end forced the industry to finally protect talent that had long been taken for granted. 8. Lupe Velez. The death the media turned into a joke. Lupe Velez's career had peaked earlier, but in the 1950s, tabloids resurrected her story and twisted it into something cruel. After Velez died in 1944, sensationalist rumors emerged, claiming she passed away in a humiliating way. Instead of honoring her groundbreaking success as a Mexican actress in Hollywood, tabloids mocked her, repeating racist caricatures and turning her final moments into a punchline. By the 1950s, magazines and gossip columns continued to recycle these false stories, treating her tragedy as entertainment. But this relentless sensationalism sparked an early conversation in Hollywood. especially among Latino and female performers, about the ethics of tabloid journalism. Velez became an example of how minorities and women were subjected to public humiliation, even after death, and her story ignited one of the first discussions about protecting celebrities from media cruelty. 7. Jean Seberg, the actress destroyed by a government smear campaign. Jean Seberg was one of Hollywood's brightest rising stars in the late 1950s. But everything changed when the FBI targeted her as part of its COINTELPRO operations. Angered by her support for civil rights groups, the agency planted false stories about her personal life, including a fabricated rumor about her pregnancy. These stories quickly spread through newspapers and Hollywood press outlets, causing irreparable harm to her career, her public image, and her mental health. Hollywood executives refused to protect her, fearing political backlash. The scandal revealed something terrifying: that political forces outside the industry could destroy a celebrity's life with just a few well-placed lies. Seberg's case later became one of the most infamous examples of government overreach into private lives, exposing the vulnerability of public figures when powerful institutions targeted them. 6. George Reeves, Superman's Mysterious Death and the Studio Secrets. George Reeves, known as the heroic face of Adventures of Superman, was beloved by millions of viewers during the 1950s. But in 1959, he died from a gunshot wound that was quickly, perhaps too quickly, labeled a suicide. Almost immediately, whispers spread through Hollywood. Reeves had connections to powerful studio figures, including a romantic link to the wife of an MGM executive. Insiders speculated about cover-ups, mishandled investigations, and people who wanted the story buried. The case exposed how Hollywood protected its elite. Police reports were inconsistent, evidence was dismissed, and the official narrative seemed rushed. Reeves's death became one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries, and it highlighted how television actors lacked the institutional protection movie stars received. Behind the cape and the smile, Reeves was a man caught between power, publicity, and private secrets he couldn't escape. 5. Tom Neal, the actor who self-destructed twice. Tom Neal's story is one of talent overshadowed by violence. Known for his roles in B-movies, Neal had the looks and charisma to build a lasting Hollywood career. But everything changed when he became entangled in a notorious love triangle with actress Barbara Payton and actor Franchot Tone. The confrontation between Neal and Tone turned vicious. Tone was beaten so severely he required reconstructive surgery. Hollywood recoiled. Neal's career was effectively destroyed overnight, but his downward spiral didn't end there. Years later, he was convicted of killing his wife, a crime that cemented him as one of Hollywood's earliest examples of a celebrity. 4. Dorothy Dandridge, a trailblazer crushed by studio racism. Dorothy Dandridge was a phenomenon, a groundbreaking black actress who earned critical acclaim and became the first African-American woman nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress. But the Hollywood system didn't reward her success. Studios underpaid her, offered her limited roles, and imposed racist restrictions that blocked her from opportunities given freely to white actresses. She was unable to appear in certain venues due to segregation laws, and her management mishandled her finances, leaving her in debt. 3. Inger Stevens, the star with a hidden marriage. Hollywood wouldn't allow. Inger Stevens was one of the most popular television actresses of the late 1950s and early 1960s. But behind her bright public persona was a secret she was forced to hide. Stevens had been secretly married to an African-American man, Ike Jones, a union that Hollywood executives feared would damage her career due to the racial prejudices of the era. Studio publicists insisted she remain publicly single, and her marriage stayed hidden until after her mysterious death in 1970. When the truth surfaced, it shocked fans and exposed the extent to which Hollywood controlled its stars' private lives. 2. Susan Peters, the Oscar nominee Hollywood tried to erase. Susan Peters was a rising star whose talent earned her an Academy Award nomination. But in 1945, a tragic hunting accident left her paralyzed. Instead of supporting her, MGM quietly distanced itself. Roles disappeared, her contract dissolved, and Hollywood effectively pretended she no longer existed. Peters attempted to return to the screen, even starring in a TV series tailored for her abilities. But the industry's deep-rooted discrimination against disabled performers made lasting success impossible. 1. Barbara Payton, the scandal that broke Hollywood's illusion. Barbara Payton was poised to become one of Hollywood's next big stars, but her life became consumed by scandals, violent relationships, and smear campaigns orchestrated by studios and tabloids. Her tumultuous affair involving Tom Neal and Franchot Tone became one of the most publicized scandals of the decade. Studios exploited the drama to generate publicity, but when the scandal grew too large and unmanageable, they abandoned her completely. Payton's career crumbled, and she became a tragic example of how Hollywood profited from scandals while destroying the very stars it marketed. Her downfall shattered the illusion of glamorous studio life, revealing a world where celebrities were commodities, sold, traded, and discarded. Hollywood buried these stories for 70 years. Now let's uncover the next chapter.